Good Costco sandwiches. Awesome. Thank you, Gavin, for getting us food. Thank you for running us through robot fun time activity this morning. That was great. Hello, my name is Aaron Gordon. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the design director for Brace Yourself Games. This is one of the, I hope you're buckled in, because I'm going to talk at you for like a long time. But will interrupt me at any point. We're not like a huge venue, just like, oh, I want to know more about that. So we'll talk about it. But I got a bunch of talks. This one's on game design frameworks as an overview. Yes, question? Can you frame that as a question?
May I?
Yes, you may. Thank you. Would it be helpful if that would be so helpful. This one's on game design frameworks. The next one's going to be taking more of a deep dive into one of those frameworks. And then I've got one that I did last time I was here that's like the inside scoops, just some stuff that like over a decade plus of working in games that like I wish I'd known this before starting out, and kind of some career advice, take it or leave it, you know better than I do. And then also at the end is like networking and how to network in an event. Again, stuff that like, man, I networked so wrong for so long. And, you know, some good stories, some horror stories. I feel like it's a bonding experience. We can all share our, like, you know, oh, I had this really bad, you know, I embarrassed myself in front of these people and I wish I did that differently. And networking's hard. We're all a bunch of nerds. We're all like shut-ins and play video games, and talking to people is hard. So we're going to start off, we're going to do game design frameworks. We're going to start off, can you edit this out? We're going to do game design frameworks. There you go. Yeah, just, we're going to do game design frameworks. I'm Aaron, these are some games that I've made. You're going to see that slide a lot. We are, oh, it's going well, can I go back one? No, I'm not. Everything's fine. We got this in post. We're going to talk about game design pillars and gameplay loops. I'm sure you've heard them before. They get thrown around a lot. Something can look like a game design loop if you put it in a loop, and something can look like a pillar if you put it against a pillar diagram. It'd be like, those are the pillars of my game. I've made enough bad ones, and I've seen enough bad ones put together that I'm like, okay, I got a pretty good idea of like a framework that works for me on how to build these. I'd love to share it with you. What are game pillars for? Well, they are to ensure alignment across the team. If you're working with a bunch of people, especially if it's remote, if you're working different, you know, time zones or whatever, you want to make sure you're all aligned on the vision of your game. It's there to support your team culture and take the kinds of experiences that you want to make. Yeah, again, aimed at what is, you know, is this a fun multiplayer game? Is it a single player solo experience? Just aligning on that from the get-go. They're really useful razors. They're the why. Like, you have loads of ideas during game dev, and you should always come back to your pillars, or your pillars should help you be like, cool, we've got 100 ideas. Why would we do this one? Why is this a good idea over this other one? And they should lead to the features, the what. So you shouldn't look at a pillar shouldn't be like jetpacks. A pillar should be fast, dynamic, vertical movement. And then you're like, well, that's the why. Why do you want it? Because we want fast, dynamic, vertical movement. What is it? Is it a grapple hook? Is it, you know, just having like loads of jumping power-ups? Is it a jetpack? Maybe it could be any of those. So the first step that I like to do is, you know, talk to your team, gather your hopes and dreams. I'm going to take you through an example that we did. This is for like a sci-fi Cthulhu-esque like game that we prototyped, and yeah, gather everybody's hopes and dreams. This is the no wrong ideas stage. This is like, hey, we're all excited to make a game that's vaguely something like this. Oh, it's like a survival game, and it's Cthulhu-esque, and there's water, and there's some combat. Okay, cool. What's exciting us about this? Let's just throw everything down. So you throw everything down. You know, start grouping things together as a team. You know, you group together like, okay, we've talked about loads of gear, we've talked about loads of progression, combat. What scares you about developing this game? Oh, I've never done netcode before. Okay, shit, cool, that's great. Let's put that in the what scares us column. What also scares us? Well, we don't want horror because we don't want to put off our players. Like, cool, let's start aligning around that. What kind of horror do we want? What puzzles us? Are there any tech things that puzzle us, or any design questions that we're not sure about? Do we have to go, how can we go find out answers to those things? Maybe, oh, the team has, only one of us has played Survival Crafters before. It's like, cool, let's take a bunch of time and go play a bunch of Survival Crafters together and get that experience. Let's go solve for it. And then what excites us. So it could be like, I just see a gap in the market here, no other game is doing this, or there's so many other games like this, or I'm really good at making this kind of artwork, and I want to leverage that for this game. Then start to refine them, put them into buckets. These 3 buckets I've always found really useful. So having one for mood, one for the world, and one for the experience you're trying to create. Very easy to come out of this exercise with like, here are the 10 pillars of our game. And as Gavin was talking about earlier, it's like restrictions breed creativity. And you want to be really focused on like one for your mood, one for your world, and one for your experience. Table stakes, what are the table stakes? This is like, what is just an expectation of this game? So if it's a survival crafter, the expectation that it is multiplayer, that I have crafting, that if it doesn't have multiplayer, you've got to set those expectations up front. But if you tell me it's a survival crafter, I'm like, cool, can I play it with my partner? And if you go, no, it's single player, I'm like, oh. So that's not table stakes. Table stakes would be the thing that I just expect. Where do we play, which is like, what area of the game, like what does success mean to us? We're not going to go up against Valheim. We're not going to go up against Minecraft. That's not what we're doing. We're going to go after this audience, or we're going to ship this game in 6 months. So you're not making something hugely polished. You're making something that's like a capture of something really spiky and really focused. And then where do you not play? Like we said, oh, we're not going to make a blockbuster. Everybody does this. I did this. First game I made, it was like, it's going to be like a GTA beta. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to go like talk to Rockstar. They're going to want to work on it with us. And it's like, okay, very cool. But that's fine. So the things that we came up with for this game was, okay, we want it to be inherently multiplayer. We don't want it to be you jump into a game together and you're like, cool, see, I'm going to go chop wood over there. You're going to go do that. We want it to be like, let's stick together and journey through this world. We wanted it to be focused on you being a scientist explorer. That excited us. It's like the discovery is a really good, like Gavin was saying too, it's easy to grok, like, oh, you're a scientist, you're an explorer. That makes sense why I'm here, why I'm wandering around, I'm an explorer. That makes sense why I'm in this hostile environment, because I'm an explorer, I got to disassemble things, got it. And what we want to do is we want to have difficulty, that's a typo. Difficulty that players understand, and having it be fair. We don't want you get one shot by a troll in Valheim kind of thing, even though I learned to be okay with it. But we wanted something that you could understand. Then you go through wordsmithing, and this is the really agonizing part where good rule of thumb is it should fit on a t-shirt. You should be able to go like boom, 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 boom. Those are your pillars. If you're having pillars that are like, it's a fantastical world with gnomes and magic, I'm like, that's too long. Fantastical world, fantastical gnomes. That's better, just like, really pithy. Get out of the thesaurus, just look up other words for is it magical? It's not quite, is it whimsical? It's not quite whimsical. Fantastical? Not quite, maybe just fantasy, but really, and you'll know it when you get to it. It'll feel like you take a long time doing this, but this will pay dividends, because if I say fantasy, we've got 20 people here, got 20 different ideas of what fantasy is. Some Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, yeah, exactly. But what kind of fantasy? Hard fantasy, hard fantasy, soft fantasy. You got to really be bespoke. And then I'll take you through the example that worked for us. Like I said, we were making a survival crafter, and it was going to be underwater and multiplayer. So what I also like to do is a pillar has value if you can detail the opposite of that pillar, and that's no good for your game. If you have a pillar that's exciting gameplay, it's well, would you make a game that had boring gameplay? Maybe. That's very, yeah, but okay, so you're right. So a better one is fun or engaging. It's well, I don't think you should go make a game, but this is your first game, as that's not engaging. So it's not a very good, if it's fluid combat, it's well, are you going to make shitty combat that doesn't work very well? So you should do the opposite exercise and be well, is that still a good idea, but in a different game for us? So we did these for all of ours. This was one for mood. We did multi-dimensional pioneers. So again, that's speaks to the setting, the fantasy, multi-dimensional, some sci-fi stuff. You're a pioneer, you're that explorer, scientist kind of conglomerate. And then we did, what's the opposite? So what it means for our games, it means adapting to perilous challenges. The opposite is the players in their element, they're trained specifically for this. That's awesome if you're making like a tactics game or Call of Duty or something where you are like, it's the hero fantasy, right? Where power fantasy, sorry, that's perfect. Just not for our game. We then did experimentation leads to the joy of discovery. The opposite is the path to success is always clear. I always know what I'm doing. That works for a bunch of games. Like, that's fine. It doesn't work for our game. And so on and so forth. So we went through all of them. We had mood, which was collaborate and thrive, which again, the opposite of players working together is that players can be just as effective in single player. So we're like, no, we don't want that for our game. We want you to be like, if you are together, this, not necessarily this idea, but like you get some bonus if you're both, you're sharing a battery pack and you can share the power between you if you're mining together. Cool. So I want you, I don't want Gavin to be like, I'm going to go off and do some cooking back at base. I'm like, no, no, come with me, because we can mine twice as efficiently, or 3 times as efficiently while you're there. It's like better. Again, for world, we had sublime underwater worlds, which spoke to, okay, the setting is underwater. Sublime speaks to the, it's kind of supernatural and wonderful, but it's not scary and, intimidating. And world speaks to, the scale of it. We want it to be awe-inspiring. Which is the opposite of being realistic and Earth-like and immediately recognizable. But loads of games do that, so this is good. And so just making sure to go through the opposite. It's very easy just to stumble across these are good game things, and then they form your pillars, and then you just end up being like, well, it's not restrictive enough. You got to leave these things on the table and be like, we're purposefully not doing any of these things. That's okay. So then when you come back to it later and you're like, I know, you make a base that is realistic and Earth-like, you're like, it's not our game. Our game is otherworldly elements, they're readable but surprising and a bit weird. And the last one we had for the experience is intuitive endeavors, which is like you have something to struggle against, but it is intuitive, you can figure it out. Like it's not completely obtuse of there's a, I don't know, mystical cube, find out how to unlock the mystical cube. It's like, I don't fucking know. But for some games, that kind of works. Control is all about being, there's a phone, it's going off. Who knows why that happens? You talk to the board. Fantastic, I'm enthralled, I'm in. That's not our game. We wanted it to be intuitive. And we didn't want it to be based off of twitch reflexes. We wanted it to be based off of challenges that require planning and precision to perform. So after we did the pillars, then you can that's one of the first things you can do when deciding how to approach your game in pre-production. Then where they fit. I would do those after the game pitch, and if you get a product mandate or if you get an assignment, or if it's make this kind of game, that's pretend it's a publisher being do this, or pretend it's some funding that you're going after. It's 2K really want a looter shooter, Great, let's go pitch them this looter shooter, and then you come up with your game pillars after you have that restriction. So you're getting restrictions all the way down, and you're refining what your game is. After the game pillars, you then go on to design goals, which is I think we'll go into it in a bit, and then user stories and tasks and features. So you don't get to actually what's in the game until down here. You kind of discover it as you go. Referencing game pillars, this is an example. I did this a lot where if we're coming up with a new feature in design documentation, I'll be like, cool, yeah, we want a jetpack. Great. Does that support our pillar, first pillar? Yes, it supports our first pillar for these reasons. Does it support the second pillar? Kind of. Take it or leave it, it's fine. Then it'd be a third pillar, hey, it doesn't support this pillar. Maybe that's okay. Sometimes, not everything has to be supporting everything all the time, but it shouldn't be completely going against it, But this is a good point where I'm sure you found you get halfway through thinking about the thing, and you get halfway through implementing it, and you're like, wait a second. So this kind of gets you ahead of that, and you do the thought process of how is it all going to fit together and be a cohesive whole at the end. Best practices for these, these are good for every discipline. Empower team members to take ownership. If everybody knows what the game pillars are, and if they've all been a part of building them together, everybody feels ownership over the game. It also helps encourage, people working together, and good pillars also make decisions. Well, so I'm just gonna. Yeah, okay, I remember writing these words yesterday. They should be specific, not too broad or generic. We already talked about that. And you should just revisit them at key milestones. If you have a first playable prototype, go back to your pillars again. Like, you should hold those opinions very strong, like firm, but then, no, sorry, what is it? Strong opinions loosely held. So it's like, if you have the game pillar, you're like, yes, we're doing this. And then as soon as the game tells you, hey, this isn't working, you're like, let's change them. But you should really commit. You shouldn't be like, oh, I know that's the game pillar, I'm not really gonna do it. You should really commit to whatever it is, and then let the game speak to you when it's not working, and then change the pillars, and then come back. And then hopefully it's better, and you move on to other features, and then when the pillars aren't working again, go back and change the pillars. You shouldn't do this like all the time, but key milestones, deliverable dates, or once you've got all the content in the game, revisit the pillars again. Once you've got final art, revisit the pillars again. That's pretty much it for game pillars. I breezed through that a bunch because I know a bunch of you have already seen it, so I wanted to, give more of a chance for questions. Yeah.
One of the subjects you touched on is deciding where you're quote-unquote playing versus not playing. Would you mind elaborating a bit on how you decide that? I mean, like, obviously you don't want to be competing against something like Minecraft, but once you get into more less obvious areas, how do you go about deciding?
So it doesn't always need to be like you can compete against people. You can be like, yeah, we're going after the Minecraft crowd. And people that play Minecraft play loads of other games too. Like, it's not a homogenous, people that like deck-like rogue builders don't just play one. They're hungry for anything else that comes out. They're like, yes, I want to play that. So you can make a call of that's where we're playing. We're playing with people that love Slay the Spire, people that love Monster Train, Bellatra. They're our core audience. That's where we're playing. We're not playing with, I don't know, Peglin. You play Peglin, which is like a roguelike deck builder, but it has more accuracy and gameplay associated to it. Like, what's the thing? Peggle. It's like you got a little Peggle board, and so it's like a deck like rogue builder, but you got Peggle. But I freaking love it. It's great. Peglin. Yeah.
Not the same one I was playing.
Who was you playing?
I was playing Bali. Similar thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it might be the same thing of like, hey, no, we're not going to play there. We are going to focus on just turn-based mechanics. We're not going to focus on any real-time stuff. And it's very tempting early on to be like, we're going to do that and that and that. But again, the more restrictions you put on yourselves, the better, the sharper that your game will be, especially if you just want to make something small and get it out, quickly.
When you talked about inherently multiplayer as a thing, you mentioned leveraging mechanics by sort of incentivizing people to work together on things. Mm-hmm. Could you also lean to the same vein by using things like the skill tree where you don't have enough points for everything, so people almost have to take roles?
Yeah, totally.
And then also Left 4 Dead is the same way, where it's like if you go off solo, you're going to get jumped by a hunter, so now you need someone else with you to save your ass.
Yeah, totally. So I'll go back to, what do we say? Where's inherently multiplayer? It's kind of inherently multiplayer. Yes, it's a good question. Repeat that question so I understood. It's like, how broad can inherently multiplayer be, basically?
Yeah, how many angles can you cover?
Oh, as many as you can. Yeah. That's the beauty of game pillars. If you can go through every feature, every part of your game, and be like, how can we make the main menu inherently multiplayer? Everybody needs to opt in to each item. I put a Smash Bros style. I put a hand down, start. Can I just pick up your hand and throw it? Can I is that inherently multiplayer? I could argue probably not. It's probably more competitive stuff, but you should just then look at every part of your game and be like, how can we make this more inherently multiplayer? How can we make this more inherently multiplayer? The answer might be no, that's dumb. But you're at least asking the question for each of the things. So skill trees is a perfect one, where it's one player shouldn't be able to do everything, because now it's not inherently multiplayer. Now I've got to be forced down, I've got to feel the restrictions of I'm going to be the person that specs into farming. Right, and resource gathering, so I'm weak and cannot take on any enemies. Gavin, I need you to come with me. so that because you've spec'd into the tank or machinery, so you can build something. You can build me a mech suit, and now I can be protected. Awesome.
Yeah, I think Zomboid does a really good job of forcing you to spread your roles out like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed one useful thing for the pillars that I immediately noticed was that like it just prevents like you cannot use ambiguous or flattering language to like build up your game's like vision. Are there any other like paths that you can I guess avoid by design during that planning process? Because like as soon as you actually have prototypes going or stuff like that, you've already done so much, and it still feels like it's possible to waste a lot of time if you do
Yeah.
have a pillar.
Yeah. Okay, so your question is like, is there anything else you can do to stop yourself going too wide, like after the prototype stage? Yeah.
Or just knowing exactly what that vision is going to look like or how far you need to go basically before you can scrap it.
Gotcha. The really snarky answer is like, if you know how to do that, like with a formula perfect, then I want to talk to you and I want to get your talk, and like see you at GDC up on the stage. Like that is the golden question. That is very hard to do. It's something that needs constant vigilance because we are all creatives. We always want to do the exciting thing. We're like, I want to add jetpacks into the game. Jetpacks are fun, and I want to add grappling hooks because. Serious note, every game is probably better with grappling hooks because it's just awesome. But you got to then go, the game pillars help drag you back to be like, no, let's go back there. And then that's why it's like you should be twice as restrictive, 3 times as restrictive as you think you should be when you're making your pillars. And it's going to feel like you're already giving up on some of your vision. But as the talk we were watching earlier proves, like you can find depth. Anyway, if your vision is like this tiny, after you kind of cross that threshold, there's then so much more after that. And it stops you from then being like redesigning core parts of the game over and over again. It helps you be focused, to be like, well, we've worked 6 months on this feature. We can't make it multiplayer now. We'd have to go back. So why don't we finish this game first? Next game we'll start off as one of our pillars will be inherently multiplayer or casual multiplayer or something. So I would say, if you're looking for other ways to really restrict like the vision to make sure it's like, it's hard. It's gonna feel like you're being too restrictive because your prototyping phase should go broad. Like you should prototype loads of things and then really try and not be precious about anything. And it's very difficult. Every single time I've gone through it, I'm always like, but what if I'm wrong? What if those other 9 prototypes we're not pursuing are really fun and this one's not? And sometimes you just got to take that chance, and you got to be like, nope, we're focusing on this one. If I go too broad, I won't be able to do anything. So I gotta, what's the thing, like double down, commit, or something like that. Yeah, sorry, this is a long way of saying it is very hard. You just got to constantly remind yourself in the back of your brain, like restrict the vision, restrict it, especially if you're making a small game. And yeah, it's hard. Just got to keep doing it. Oh, actually, I do have a better answer now that I stopped talking. Ask me the question again, and we'll cut into your ability as well as a team. Play to your strengths. So if you want to make an MMO, like zero latency online, like first-person shooter, and nobody's made any multiplayer games before, just don't do that. Completely cut anything that's multiplayer from your vision. Or if you want to do that, keep it really, be like, okay, none of us done multiplayer before. It's going to be local multiplayer only. We're going to start there. And then that's easier to do. You don't then spend half your project just trying to get tech off the ground or trying to like work with Unity or Unreal's latency stuff. Yeah, play your strengths. If you have an artist on your team who's really amazing at making zombies or fantasy art, like just play to that. And just go around the table, and like often you'll find like something will emerge there, right, that you'll get excited about. That's good. That's a great one for restriction. And then another restriction is like, when do you want to release this game? Do you have a year to work on it? Do you have a month? Is it just a hobby thing that you're just going to have fun? If you're just having fun, then cool, great. But if you want to release it, then you should have a deadline in place, and even though it's imaginary and all deadlines can move, you should take it as seriously as possible, just because, again, it'll force you to make decisions, it'll force you to land something, and at the end of the day, one shipped game is better than like 10 unfinished prototypes, so just shipping things is good. Cool. I'm going to go more into depth. I'm just going to roll on to the next one, if that's cool. So I blitz through this one a bit. Sure. Of course.
I also have all the slides, so.
Yeah, I shared all the slides with Gavin, and you can just look over them later. And I'm in the Discord if you want to ask me anything about anything later. But no, game pillars are super important. It feels a little bit stuffy to have to like box yourself in so early, but is very useful. Gameplay loops. So that's another one that is easy to say, let's do a gameplay loop, and you can kind of intuitively do some stuff. If you want to make a gameplay loop that's going to work for you and actually make your life easier, I found that, oh, I should have a mouse. I found that this method is pretty good. It's over there. Thank you. Sorry. Game loops are great for assuring alignment across your team. They're great for supporting a culture and the kinds of experience you want to make. The same things that pillars are. And they ensure all your features serve a purpose. So what part of the game loop is this feature holding up? Why is it there? And again, it leads to the what, rather than you just being like, that would be cool, that would be cool. You'll see a theme in all of my, I'm quite an analytical game designer. I like to be like, but why? But why is that there? Can it be something else? So game loops are a series of actions that the player takes throughout the gameplay experience. The core gameplay loops are foundational and, sorry, my brain today. The core gameplay loop is foundational and where the player will spend most of their time. So this is an example of a core gameplay loop for something like, again, the Survival Crafter, where you explore, you mine, and you craft. I wonder what game this is. Explore, mine, craft. That's the three things that you do. They all link into each other. And they're the key to keeping your players engaged within the game. I found really useful to split things into three things. So you've got an objective, a challenge, and a reward, and then everything fits into that template. So successful loops will often have a reward here that makes the objective even better. So you don't just do it to get gold, you do it to get, you do some mining to get resources so that you can explore more places, so that you can mine more places, so you get more resources, so you explore more places. And now it's 4 a.m. and you've excavated half the world. So the objective is simply, what is the player trying to accomplish in order to progress? There may be gameplay associated with it, or maybe simply information gathering. It might be, the player decides which sector of space to travel to. They might explore their surroundings and look for a point of interest. They might study enemy patrols and decide on a plan of attack, or they might decide, I'm going to go up this vantage point, use a sniper rifle. That's the objective, so the players kind of figured it out for themselves what they want to do. Then comes the challenge. This is like, how are they going to accomplish that objective? And this objective could be explicit, the game telling you what to do, or it could be the player's own, like, I want to climb that mountain, I want to get that resource. This is often the most demanding section where like a lot of your gameplay is going to happen here. Like a lot of the moment to moment when you describe to somebody, what do you do in the game? It's probably going to be mostly this. And it's stuff, the player steers their spaceship through an asteroid field, or the player pushes physics or blocks away to open a path in a puzzle game, or they fight enemy AI in a shootout. Like that's kind of the core of the game. And then the reward. This is the most important bit that I often find doesn't gel. And if you've played any games where you're like, but why would I keep doing that? It's because the reward isn't tying back into your objective very strongly. So your objective can be literally like, it could be a reward like gold, or it could be an advantage, or a piece of information, or even just avoiding any bad negative consequences. Examples, you land on a new planet, you log it in your journal, you got a new fast travel point. Great. You find a treasure chest with a +10 sword in it, or you just avoid combat altogether. That means you're in better shape. for the next objective, you can take on bigger threats because you haven't had to expend your resources in this fight. Loads of examples. Yeah. In fact, maybe now here's a good place to pause and make it a little bit interactive, and we can come up with our own ones, or somebody picks a game. But for example, we've got, rock, paper, scissors. The objective is, I'm planning to beat you. I'm planning, I'm trying to think, what are they going to throw? What should I throw to counter them? Me actually physically manipulating my fingers to make that shape and doing it in time is the challenge. And the reward is, we've resolved it, I've won. Or, I now know your strategy a bit more. And you always play rock, so I'm going to go, every 3 rocks you play scissors. I'm going to play around that. Okay, great. Let's figure it out. Cookie clicker, I'm going to go back so that we can look at, no, just keep the, no, we've got all the information here. Cookie clicker, all right. I like a challenge. Anybody help me out at any.
Right? That's the goal, is to get more cookies.
The objective
To generate cookies faster.
the challenge is to click, and the reward is.
The challenge is to stay there long.
Nailed it. So yeah, the challenge is, the objective is get cookies.
Yep.
I just want to.
I'll just stay there long enough to cook.
Yeah. Yeah. Challenge is do the thing, click to get the cookies, and your reward is you got cookies. Perfect.
It's very simple.
But it works because now you're but now we can, and this helps, going around and around the loop helps flesh things out a bit, because now we can go, okay, but does the reward of more cookies help you get cookies? Well, yes. If we build an engine that is like, well, if you spend 10 cookies, you could upgrade your, exactly. So now I want to click cookies to get cookies to buy grandma's, so that I can get more cookies to get cookies. And now the challenge may be like, well, how do I optimize my cookie clicking experience? Like, I've gone from 1 click, but now my objective is I want enough cookies to be able to afford the Eldritch Beast thing.
Like optimizing your first month of Stardew Valley, so you get like the
Exactly.
by the time the summer festival comes around, you make $1 billion.
But that's an awesome example, and awesome. Thank you for doing all the work for me, by the way. I really appreciate you bailing me out. But yeah, it works, and that's why Cookie Clicker is like one of the reasons why it's such an engaging game, because this is so tight. I just want to do this all the time because I want to get the reward to do it more, to then get the reward to do it more. Huh?
You get it quick too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Anyone else have an example? An obscure example? We can work through it together.
Not the current game.
We do Blutcher, yeah. I would love, let's do that. Let's go through your current game, but it may be hard for me to understand what your game is right now. But
I talked about it a few different game things that I always have this in the back of my mind.
yeah.
No, it's the cooking one. It's the one where you go out and you're trying to make a cookbook for adventurers for when they're out and about and can't get regular ingredients.
Yeah, oh, cool.
Those recipes that they love, so out of monster parts and like scavenged plants and magical shit. It's like dungeon meshy, but like if it were like the entire world and not just in the dungeon.
Okay, cool.
So objective would be create new recipes.
Okay.
Challenge, fight for your ingredients and collecting them.
Okay.
And then reward, food.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So then, again, we're working our way through it and going around like a few more times. So you've got your food. How does that help you get more ingredients?
Oh,
Because you want scaling difficulty, right? So if you add in that the food gives you buffs, you can take on stronger mobs.
Yeah,
Gameplay just feeds into itself over and over again, right?
nailed it.
essentially a game where you can then create those recipes in real life. But I really like that.
Yeah. Or you get, and this could be multiple things, right? You could get more, now you can bake more things, so you can then, you unlock.
Get a utensil for the kitchen.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you again for bailing me out on that one.
Use that food to barter with someone to get something.
Perfect.
better to make
But that connection part is the most, because often gameplay loops flatten out here, or like this is like quite easy to be like, what do you want to do? Here's the challenge. But then making the reward tie back in is often really difficult, or requires that extra bit of thinking, and that's where players like put down. They're like, oh, I'm a bit bored. I don't know why I'm doing this. Okay, what's an example that's not like a farming sim or a cooking sim or like? World of Warcraft.
Try to defeat the boss, and in order to defeat the boss, you need to follow the tactics.
Yeah.
And as a reward, you get like achievement or other like stuff, like skin for your mount or other stuff.
Yeah.
Or items.
That's awesome. So you have like, your objective is defeat powerful, like I want to defeat, you could go one level higher, you'd be like, I want to defeat powerful enemies. And the challenge is go apply a strategy to do that. Your reward is I now have better equipment, which lets me take on more powerful enemies, which lets me like apply different strategies, which lets me do, oh, now we're motoring, now I want to do that all the time. Now it's 3 a.m. I haven't turned up to my job in 3 days. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. But then within that, so going one step deeper, you have nested game loops, right? Where you can, if you're exploring, within that you've got another objective, challenge, reward. So in the explore, loop, when you go in there, you're like, okay, I find my target, the thing that I want to go to. I then need to navigate to it. So I need to physically like jump around and like traverse there. And then survey. Once I get there, I use my eyeballs and I look around. Is there anything here that I want? If there is, awesome. I move on and go into the mining loop, and then I start mining. If not, I stay in the explore loop, because now I want to target somewhere else. I want to go to the top of that mountain instead. There's a bunch of stuff you can do. There'll be interlinked gameplay loops. So, fighting, I identify a threat. I have a combat. I resolve the combat, and I identify more threats. But I may go from the combat loop to the explore loop pretty seamlessly at any time. I might be like, yeah, I want to go explore now. That's fine. You don't need to draw ridiculous diagrams for it. You just need to know what your core loops are. Metagame. This is like the layer that sits outside of your loop. So it's like the why would I do these things? It's the strategy around it. Metagame is like when I make decisions based on outside knowledge or my experience across the whole game. This may be how to min-max my gear to get the best upgrades, using my knowledge from a previous session to influence what I do. The metagame is how you put your finger on the scale. So it might be like, ooh, you okay? So it might help me, avoid combat altogether because I know that I can kite enemies into the lava to avoid it. So you can use metagame to kind of like cheat a little bit. So don't worry if your game is like, but they never have to actually do the combat with these enemies. It's like, okay, but are they using their metagame knowledge to purposefully subvert this bit? Then it can be okay. If that happens every single time, then it's like, okay, you probably want to work at it. But if it's only in this area, only with this kind of enemy, and the players had to work for it, cool, great.
Using Minecraft as an example, is that sort of how you go into caves and they have skeletons?
Yeah.
But the way that they're sort of offsetting that is by having the day-night cycle, where you have that initial plan where you're like, I need to go find enemies, and they're like, well, JK, nighttime now, the enemies are coming to you.
Perfect, yeah, exactly. And the opposite of that is like, I don't want to fight them. I will wall myself in, or I will put them in a pit and wait until daytime, and they will die.
Hands in a 2-foot hole until day.
Yeah. We've already talked about metagame. Don't know why it's on there twice. Don't do this. This is bad. If you Google gameplay loops, you will find lots of documents that look like this and examples that look like this. Maybe somebody can make sense of them. I just see a bunch of things that are connected to a bunch of other things, kind of seemingly at random. I don't think that anything like this helps you at all. Yeah, so look at the Mario one. It's like, okay, Mario runs along the map and breaks blocks, and then he collects coins, and then collects power-up mushrooms. Okay, does this mean that he can't collect a power-up mushroom and then reach the level, the end of the level? Does it mean that when I outsmart Bowser, I don't reach the end of it? It doesn't make any sense. It's just a bunch of stuff that's put together. This core loop for Pokemon Go is just like, here's all the things you do in the game.
Yeah, it's the fullest mechanics.
So it doesn't, there's good stuff in here, but it's not going to help you refine any of the mechanics you have. And Fortnite, again, is like, find the enemy, aim at them, shoot them, loot them. That's the closest one, but it's too many steps. They could have, condensed it down. Exactly.
How is the gameplay loop if the game's intent is to continuously change?
If it's continuously change, then your gameplay loops are supposed to be broad, right? So if it's like, let's go back to, Minecraft. And you have multiple gameplay loops, right? You don't just have one. So you could, if your game is changing, if you have a procedural world, or if different phases are coming through, if you're in a battle royale and now it's like this phase of the game, now you can be in different gameplay loops, like different, you can be at different stages of the game, or you can move between them. That's fine. Or another way to do it that I like better is just having them be quite agnostic of the mechanics in the game. So like explore, mine, and craft kind of works with most stages of Minecraft, no matter if you're like in any region at any level.
Or the nether, you're still going there, you're mining, you're crafting. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Combat and still in the nether, it's just more frequent.
Exactly. Or you'll stay in one for longer. Yeah, totally. Oh. This is also bad. Don't do this. I have made these, and then 1 a.m. come away being like, I'm so freaking smart. I'm a genius. Everything links into everything else. This is I literally Google image searched gameplay loops, and this was like one of the first things that came up.
The blue is
Is it metaverse? Oh my god, you're so right. It is metaverse.
Yeah.
what is happening?
The memory slots, and they come from the mystery box and they go into the memory slots.
This is what happens when you try to ask a memory word, and then they just go into memory.
They don't answer it.
No comment. Yeah. But yeah, it can very easily be like, let's put everything possible on the game. This is what happens when you put your nouns in the game, when you put jump, run, attack, instead of navigate or traverse. This is a real diagram for something.
This is physical locations. This is like a bad Pokemon Go game. It doesn't mean metaverse stuff.
It gets more and more, look, I have made ones that look like this, for my games. And I thought I was doing a good job at the time. This is a cautionary tale to be like, if your gameplay loop starts to look like this, you're like, wait a second. How do we condense this down into one word? How do we condense that down into one word?
Everything ties into the metaverse, which I assume is meant for a digital space.
I sure hope not. Yeah. Some best practices, start with your core gameplay loop. If it's not solid, you'll just pay for it later. If you're like, that's a core gameplay loop, let's move on to do all the other fun, exciting things. If that's not solid and you haven't play tested it and paper prototyped it or whatever, you're just gonna, you will have to, X months in development, kind of just refactor a bunch of stuff, because you'll be like, the core wasn't there. So it sounds obvious, but again, I've fallen for this every time. I'm distracted by the new shiny thing, I want to get going. Or if at the very least, kind of revisit your core gameplay loop very often, like with game pillars. You just got to keep coming back to it and being like, but is it strong enough? And if you make a few subtle tweaks during early development, it's way easier then to continue on strong. It's where your player spends the most time. Yeah, so spend the most time on it yourself. It just makes sense. It can be shored up with extrinsic rewards. So it can be shored up with if you don't have that reward that's super intuitive, you can be like, you get 1,000 points. And now I can use it to do some things, or it could be intrinsic, where it's like, I always get these mixed up, so forgive me if I just did that, but it could be just like, for the joy of doing it, you might want to go climb that mountain for the joy of it. That can work for a little while. But once that motivation runs out, then players will also stop. So like, gotcha games. Once I stop getting like, oh, I get the new thing. Once I stop caring about the new thing, then I start, everybody's had that feeling of like, why am I playing this game? I'm playing this game to get numbers to go up, to go fight things with higher numbers, to then get my numbers to go up, to fight things with higher numbers, and then the bottom falls out from it, and you're done, and you go away. Really endeavor to stick to objective, challenge, reward. It's really, really tempting to end up like back here. Just to be like, oh, I just want to squeeze in an extra, I just want to, mine's going to have 4. Mine's going to have 5. Okay, 6. Under 10. Under 10, no more than 10. Really easy to do. And then it ends up like last one. Just, I beg you, try and keep it to the 3. You could have multiple of these, but don't sprawl out from one to have it, contain all of your game, because then you're just, it's not helping you do anything. You could do, although I'd argue that yeah, everything's very well connected, but they do have pretty good core loops. There's just a lot of those, which for my brain, I'm an ancient 35-year-old man. I can't keep up with, I can't keep up with that. Yeah, this is a successful framework, but like all others, so to contradict myself immediately, if you're very confident, you can break it. You just got to be very confident and then be right at the end of it. Ask yourselves, do you want to make that bet? Do you want to make the bet of no, I'm going to be the one to break this formula, and actually it's the hero's journey, right? Everybody learns about the hero's journey, and then they're like, well, I'm not going to make my story like the hero's journey. My story is going to be completely different. I'm going to have different arcs. And then days and days later, you're like, I see. I see, this kind of needs a redemption. This kind of needs a returning home. Okay, I see why the hero's journey is pretty good now. So it's not always bad to kind of stick to well-trodden ground and do it in interesting ways. Loads of very successful games can be attributed to some kind of structure like this. And yeah, we've already talked about metagame. This is a great tool to bring out if your game isn't clicking, if it just feels like, it's a bunch of stuff that I'm doing, but why would I do it? Then try and bring it all in and look to see how you can link it all up into a loop. Some resources. This is a great book. Highly recommend. It's like $8. It's really accessible. It's not like a lot of other. I don't get a commission, I promise. But a lot of this information is from this book. I used to work with Richard Crillo at Ubisoft, very smart guy. But he has a way of just putting it down to really simple terms. It's like, this is practical. Go do this. This has worked for me. Or don't. It's your game, but I would do this. As opposed to, I'm sure you've all read a bunch of game design and game theory books that kind of go on for 1,000 pages. This is like a tight 100 pages, and it's like, here's a framework, here's a framework, here's a framework. $8, it's a great book. Looking at psychology is really useful here. In video games, and especially game design, we like to think that we're the first people to be like, oh, and if we reward people for doing things, they'll want to do it more. And psychologists from the 1600s are like, yes, we figured this all out.
That's literally the premise of Pavlov.
Yeah, centuries ago. Yeah, but does Pavlov also think about feeding his dogs when you ring a bell? Sorry, it's a very, very nerdy joke. But no, look for other, I'm sure you get told this a bunch, but reach for other sources of knowledge outside of game dev knowledge. Psychology is great for understanding players, and they've got centuries of research and stuff on us for this. So the human brain hasn't changed a whole bunch. Our ability to understand it has exponentially increased, but self-determination theory is a great one for, okay, what leads to players' motivation? One theory of self-determination theory is it's autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And I need a combination of all three to be truly motivated. Autonomy being can I do the things that I want? That's kind of layer one. And then layer two is competence. Do I feel like I'm good at doing these things? Do I get rewarded for my competence? I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm doing a good job. And relatedness, it's well, why am I doing these things? So I can mine and get a bunch of gold, but why? I need to relate to the world. I need to link, so I can make this sword, so I can go to these other areas, so I feel connected, so I can save this village from this dragon and progress my quest. I feel a sense of relatedness in the world, and I feel motivated. And those are gameplay loops. Happy to go through anything else. It's a little bit of a heady thing. I'd encourage you just to do, take a bunch of your favorite games and try and go through the objective, challenge, reward cycle. And that last bit is always the most challenging part. It's always like, okay, the reward, but how does that make the objective better, or make it easier to do the objective, or change the objective in some way? That's the tricky part. But yeah, I've yet to find a game that doesn't fit that structure.
Besides like items or XP, could a reward be like, say, a story or like getting information?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to yeah, absolutely can. Yeah, if your game is about relatedness and relating to the world, and your reward is, I learn more about that character, I can progress their quest. That's the thing, I want to learn more about this character, that's my objective. The way I do that is through dialogue, and through the choices I make in dialogue. And then the reward is, I learned information, I increased my friendship meter, or I just know that their favorite food is strawberries. So now I know to bake them a strawberry pie, and I'll increase my friendship with them. Awesome, I'm doing it.
Fun fact, that game design book, it's on Kindle Unlimited, so if you're Kindle Unlimited, it's free.
There you go.
So you have less excuse.
It's good.
I find a lot of people like to like skip past dialogue, but that's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's like the story is the whole point.
It can be, yeah.
I mean, it depends. Like if you're in a PvP game, maybe not as much, but
I don't know, it's
I
like a lot
like
of
to
games
pick up
use
those
that
little
shit.
complete information. Like if you read some of the things you have lying around, you might, know where the best hiding spot is now because someone left behind a note.
I fully wish more games did that, and it wasn't just like placeholder text from the chat GPT.
Yeah.
I love finding little things like that.
Fable's really good about that, hiding secret.
It was good, Far Cry is pretty good for that too. Like there's loads of I know because I wrote a bunch and I did a bunch, and then I'm like, if you read, no, sorry, I should be very clear. The writers on the team are good. I'm like, I just need the note to say that the key is in the third chest is like buried under the sea in this place. Like, I got you. And they built a backstory of these two lovers that had a quarry, and then they burnt down their boat. And
The lustful Argonian or the lusty Argonian in Spectre?
yeah,
No, that's just a comment.
high literature,
But
cultured. Yeah.
That's the thing about like I find about investigators is that you know what, they have a lot of glitches, but they make some really good stories.
Yeah.
And they're just scattered all over the place. People will just walk by them. I will always click on a computer and try and hack it in Vala just for the information.
Yeah, it's good. There's one more section of this. Does anybody have any questions on game loops, or shall I just motor into the next thing? I'll be here for a while. I got more questions. You can have more questions later. I figured out how to use my mouse. Okay, some honorable mentions just before we take a little bit of a break, and I can stop talking for 5 minutes, and everybody will love that, and it'll be great. Honorable mentions, yeah, we talked about user stories before. These are really powerful when it's like, but I want to do this. It's like, okay, let's distill that down into a user story that we can then support with mechanics. So a user story is something that's like, you focus on the end goal and the experience target, you decide how to achieve it, and then you can play test against it. So the structure of a user story is, as a player, I want to do X so that I can Y. And I'll go through some examples later. Now, as a player, I can attack the boss at any time so that I can push my luck and look for openings. So that's like, I want to attack the boss at any time. Why do I want to do that? So that I can be ducking and diving and looking for a weak point, or looking for my time to strike, or whittling down the boss. That's the why I want to do it. E.g. players, and then you can start designing features that support that user story. So if you're then designing combat, you go, well, what user story do we want to support? I want to support, like, should we make slow, long charge ups? Well, no, because we decided we wanted to support this user story, that I want to attack at any time. So it needs to be quick. So I can press up to attack when they like. If I hit the boss during a certain frame, they'll stun it. And then I open up to a larger attack window. If I miss the attack, then it takes longer to recover, and it opens up me to getting attacked. So now it's getting into that push your luck. Now I can attack the boss whenever I want, but I got to pay consequences for it. I'm going to skip this, because we'll go over this in more detail. Like, I got a whole section on this now, because this is pretty good, but it's player skills and how to, like, define each one. These are awesome. These are your audience-like segments. Quantic Foundry is a really good resource for this. Again, take it with a pinch of salt. Everybody is a little bit of a different kind of player, but they generally bucket player types into, are you an action player? Do you like social mechanics, mastery mechanics, achievement, immersion, and creativity? And again, this is, you're asking, like, how do you decide where you play and where you don't? You can decide, we're going for destruction and competition. We are not going for story, discovery, and fantasy. So then when something starts to edge towards that, or even if you have a good idea that's like, oh, in this bad idea, destruction derby, competitive PvP game, oh yeah, let's do like character bios for each of the drivers, and then we'll have like these cutscenes, like animations. So you're like, hold on, that is cool. Does it support the audience that we targeted? No, it doesn't actually, because we're going to go after story and fantasy players. And they'll come here for the story, but then they'll be disappointed that it's mostly destruction and PvP, so we shouldn't even go for those players, because they'll arrive and then be like, negative review, don't like this game, didn't have enough story. So being targeted really helps. And that's it. This will be, I'm in the Discord, so you don't need to take a photo of it. But yeah, that's it for part 1 of 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. But yeah, if anybody wants to, do you want to take like 5-minute break, and then I'll get on.